Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America once again, and we're going to visit a brewery who I've heard very good things about, but it is in fact the first time that I'm trying one of their beers, so really curious about this one actually. So for this one we're going to go to Asheville in North Carolina, which is a big beer city these days. I know Sierra Nevada have their East Coast brewery over there, but for this one we're going to do my first beer review from Wicked Weed Brewing. So this one is the Dark Age. It's a Bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout, this guy coming in at 12% ABV, and this of course was one of the small partiers that we had here through Systembolaget in Sweden on the 5th of October 2018. So really looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. As I say, very first time I've tried something from Wicked Weed, but like I've heard some really good things about these guys. So yeah, hopefully it's a good review and I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Wicked Weed Brewing. Like I said, very first time I'm trying something from these guys. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Wicked Weed Brewing then. So on to my brewery notes. Wicked Weed Brewing was founded back in 2012 by Luke and Walt Dickinson, and also Ryan, Rick and Denise Guthey, who had been lifelong friends. So Luke and Walt had originally talked about opening up their own brewery sometime back in 2009, but over the following 2 years they drew up a business plan, and then in 2011, after tasting Luke and Walt's homebrews, the Guthey family joined in with the idea and put their kind of might behind it as well. So they opened their brew pub in 2012 in Asheville on Biltmore Avenue, which I believe is actually downtown, and this was a former hardware shop actually, but they've converted it. They said it was destined to become a brewery just because of how the thing was laid out and everything like that. But in October 2013 they also opened their Functorium with the intention of producing sour beers and wild ales, and they basically said they wanted to become really well known for their sour beers actually. So I do need to get one of the sour beers and have a go at them, because that's what Wicked Weed in Europe at least were very well known for. So they opened that up in 2013, but they also opened a new 50-barrel brewing facility in 2015, and then they added a larger sour beer facility in Asheville later the following year as well. But in 2017 the company became part of Anheuser-Busch and is part of their high-end group, but from what I understand they are basically given much independence to kind of do what they want really. The high-end series of beers that Anheuser-Busch are doing, Karbach Brewing Company from Texas is another one that's in there, Goose Island I think are in there too, and there's one or two others whose names aren't coming to me at the moment, but the high-end thing is basically the craft division of Anheuser-Busch. But these guys, from what I gather, they are left to kind of do their own thing, but what it really helps them with, I guess, is their distribution, because I think it wasn't until recently that these Wicked Weed beers were making their way over to Sweden. I know they were in Denmark before because you could buy them in Copenhagen through Kiosk and things like that, but we didn't have them at least in South Sweden. We didn't have them. I was having to go to Copenhagen to even come across these beers. So they have got themselves into Systembolaget now, and I guess we will see more and more things from them through the small partiers. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Wicked Weed Brewing just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook, of course, and on Instagram to keep up to date with the latest goings on. But before they actually became part of the Anheuser-Busch group, they'd produced something like 500 beers in around 5 years of existence, which is pretty impressive. So they are a pretty prolific brewery, I have to say. But yeah, as I say, check out the links in the description below if you want to learn a little bit more about them. But let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So I can get rid of the brewery notes now, and we can have a taste of this beer. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before you open it up. There you can see the Dark Age, you can see the raven there, a very important symbol for the Vikings, of course, for us over here in Scandinavia. But yeah, you can see there's the Wicked Weed symbol, of course, at the top there, very nicely presented, and that is also on the bottle cap as well. On the back here it has a little bit of a blurb. It says, "Humanity's path out of the Dark Age is one without end. This path carries us from the mystical to the measurable, from the magical to the mathematical, and serves as a meandering tale of progress from madness to method. Yet we still find wonder in the magical and the excitement in the mystery. From this yearning of the old ways, the Dark Age Imperial Stout emerges from the whisky barrel, its dark malt complexity and smooth sweetness softened by its evolution in the oak, a living testament to the marriage of method and mystery." So yeah, this one of course was imported by Wicked Wines, who are one of the big companies that sell the imported beers to Systembolaget, and as I said in my last video, it's a bit of a problem when it comes to IPAs because it takes them a few months to actually get them into Systembolaget, but when it comes to the Imperial Stouts and stuff like that, you don't have to care so much, to be honest. But yeah, you get 10 cents, you get 5 cents back apparently in certain states when you give this one back, 10 cents of course. We have the pant here in Sweden, of course. But yeah, bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout, 12% ABV. Really looking forward to this. There, of course, you can see as well, there's a bigger version of that Wicked Weed sort of symbol there. But without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. This one, it says, is 12.7 fluid ounces, which on the bottle it says is 375 millilitres. And that's one thing I always complain about with these American beers, is I don't know why America can't just take the metric system. It just makes a lot more sense. The whole thing is of course based on water, it's based on nature. I don't know where this whole fluid ounce thing actually comes from. So America, go and just use litres. Sell your beers in 330s or in half litres or something like this. It makes a lot more sense. But yeah, when you open this one up, you can smell some of the lovely chocolatey malts as well. But I think this is going to be a beast of a beer, I will say that straight away. So 375 mils of a 12% barrel-aged Imperial Stout, bourbon barrel-aged, so American whiskey. I've not tried too many American whiskies actually. Being Scottish, of course, it's mainly the Scottish stuff that we drink. I've tried a few Japanese ones because the missus is Japanese as well, and they're pretty good. So I do need to try and have a taste of a few different American whiskies too. But as you can see with this one, it's poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood colour. There's a solid, just under a finger of a frothy sort of beigey tan head on this one. It's sort of medium beige tan. The head is quite frothy. There's one or two bigger bubbles towards the top, but yeah, overall it looks pretty much as you would expect an Imperial Stout to. If I hold this one up to the light, up here as well, it's got a little hint of a kind of Coca-Cola edge, or like a sort of dark chestnutty colour to it, but there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side there, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of the head there. But you know, as I say, it looks pretty much as you would expect from an Imperial Stout, but there's some lovely sweet aromas coming out of this beer just as you move it around. So yeah, let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. One other thing I should say about this, I think the original non-barrel aged version of the Dark Age is 10.7%. That beer had a 100 overall on Rate Beer, and I think it was a 95 within the style, and it was rated something like 4.2 on Untappd as well. And usually the rule of thumb is that the bourbon barrel versions of things tend to be rated even better than that. They tend to taste a little bit better as well. The exception I've found to that though was it was one of the Omnipollo beers where it wasn't rated, the bourbon barrel aged version wasn't rated as highly, so that's a bit of an anomaly. But let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. And I'll say straight away, as soon as you go into that, bourbon, definitely bourbon. I've always found the American whiskies, and it's the same with the beers actually as well, the American versions of like Scotch ales and stuff like this, they're always just a bit sweeter, they're also a bit more sugary. I think the Americans like sugar and sweet things. But the American whiskies to me always smell a little bit sweeter than the Scotch whiskies. And you can really smell that in this one. They've always, to me the American whiskies have always just got a little bit more brown sugar in them. And you can definitely smell that in this, the whiskey notes are coming straight out of this one. So yeah, it's got that lovely, slightly sweet, brown sugary bourbon note. As you know, again, you've got a lot of brown sugar in that. It is a kind of sweeter caramel, but at the same time there's a little bit more of a kind of syrupy, there's a little bit of a kind of syrupy treacle, molasses I think the Americans would call that, in this beer as well. Lovely big chocolate, you know, it's mainly a milky chocolate I think that's coming out of the aroma here. But yeah, whiskey notes in there. You can pick up some of the oaky and vanilla characters as well. But yeah, lovely smelling beer, this one. You could sit and smell this for ages actually, but yeah, it's got pretty much everything you would expect from the Imperial Stout. This one is quite a sweet one. There's a lot of brown sugar coming out of this, and like I say, I think that is from the bourbon, the barrel aging. But the vanilla notes are in there. There is that woody note in there too, the oaky vanilla. A little touch of an earthy hop, you can pick up a little bit of that. There's a wee bit of red fruit, but not too much. You know, there's a little touch of like a figgy note or a pruny, maybe more of a prune to be honest with you. And it's almost got a little bit of that kind of cakey presence, you know, like a boozy sort of dessert cake kind of thing. It has a little bit of that sort of quality to it as well, but it's a beautiful smelling beer. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you get stuck into the beer. But for me, this one's a really sweet base Imperial Stout. It's the chocolate and things that are forming the base of it. It's almost got a little touch of a brown bready, cakey sort of note to it, like I was saying. But then the whiskey really jumps out of this one at you. The bourbon really jumps out of this beer at you. So yeah, without further ado then, let's take a taste of this beer. So this is the bourbon barrel-aged version of the Dark Age, a 12% Imperial Stout, bourbon barrel-aged from Wicked Weed Brewing in Asheville in North Carolina. My very first taste of one of the Wicked Weed beers. So let's get stuck into this one then. Slàinte, skål. Yeah, that's really nice actually. It's a bit lighter in the mouthfeel than I was expecting. From the way it poured, I thought it would be a bit bigger and more syrupy in the mouthfeel than that, but the flavour is good. I mean, mouthfeel, it is one thing, but you know, mouthfeel is one thing, but it's mainly about the flavour for me. The mouthfeel can be a little bit different, and you do get variances between different beers, but the main thing is the flavour, and the flavour of this is really quite nice. Yeah, that's a good beer. I'll say that straight away. This is a pretty damn good beer. You know, with this one, I would love to compare this to the original, because one thing I have found with usually the barrel aged ones, sometimes they get a bit thicker. But I have had a beer. I had a beer recently from the Het Anker brewery, part of the Gouden Carolus, the Cuvée van de Keizer, and they had a whiskey infused version of that, and it was a bit lighter in the mouthfeel compared to the original as well, so I would be very curious to see if that was the case. But that said, that was a whiskey infused beer, it wasn't a barrel aged one, if that makes sense, so there must be some kind of correlation there. It would be interesting to know. But yeah, let's try and break this one down a little bit then. So, with this one you can feel there is a little bit of a roasted black malt just kind of blanketing the middle of your palate there. That starts to come out a little bit more in the aftertaste. You can feel it's there in the beginning, but in the aftertaste it starts to come out just a little bit more. On top of that though, you have got a little bit of a bready quality just sitting on top of that. But yeah, the thing I'll say about this beer as well is that it's very, very smooth, and that's always the challenge with a big beer like this, is making sure that the malts and the sweetness can cover the alcohol actually. But yeah, with this one, you can feel, as I say, you've got a little bit of that bready quality, but then you've got the sweet chocolate kind of forming that and sitting there in the middle of your palate too. That kind of, it's a more milky chocolate. There's a little bit of a higher cocoa thing, but I think the highest level of cocoa you're going to get out of this beer is somewhere around, it matches probably around the sort of 60% cocoa chocolate. It's mainly a milky chocolatey flavour that's coming out of this one. There is a little bit of brown sugar in there, but compared to what you get out of the aroma, the sort of caramelly treacle flavours in this beer are quite minimal, I would say. Although maybe that's not the best descriptor. They are there, you can feel that caramelly sweetness in the middle of your palate there, but it's not anywhere near as syrupy and things as you're going to get from some Imperial Stouts. Like I say, this one generally I'm finding it is quite light in the mouthfeel for an an Imperial Stout, and particularly for an American one as well. Usually the American ones are very big and thick actually, but the ones that we get in Europe are as well. It's probably better to say generally for the style it's a little bit light in the mouthfeel. But yeah, for me, the brown sugars there, as you come further out from the centre of your palate, it does become a little bit lighter. There's the main sweetness is in the right in the centre of your palate, and then as you come further out, you can feel it just sort of fade away a little bit. It almost becomes a little bit biscuity towards the outside of the palate. As you come further forward on the tongue, just before where you'd find the fruits, you can pick out the woody kind of flavours to this one. That comes out a little bit more in the aftertaste as well. You can definitely pick out a little bit of that woody kind of quality to this beer. I'm not getting too much in the way of a vanilla note from this one, I have to say. Yeah, it is more of a woody note to this one. There is a little touch of vanilla, and there's almost a little touch of a slightly charred or smoky sort of thing. Just behind, as I always say, you get that little oily bubble behind the front curve of your palate where the fruits come out. If you just go slightly behind that, there is a little touch of an almost kind of charred thing there, a woody, it's almost got a little touch of smoke to it or something like that, which is quite interesting. You'll just feel that behind that fruity part of your palate, but then underneath that you start to get the woody notes of the beer. There maybe is a little touch of vanilla initially, but I think it just kind of fades away and becomes a little bit more sort of, it has a little bit of just that smoky thing that I was talking about, which is kind of unusual actually. Yeah, I would stick to that. There is definitely a little bit of that charred kind of barrel thing. I'd be very curious to know what type of whiskey was matured in the barrels that they've been using this year, because the type of whiskey, it helps infuse the casks and things like that. So everything that you do to these oak barrels, or these whiskey oak barrels, does have an effect on them actually. So that would be interesting to know. So let's go to the hoppy side of this beer. It is quite simple, the hoppy side of this beer actually. Back corners of the palate, you've got a really nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you come further forward, you can feel that spread a little bit further forward. There's a little tiny touch of bitterness there, but overall it does smooth out. Maybe a very slight touch of floral quality on the front corners of your palate, then round the very front curve of the tongue it is just a little bit more light and grassy, and then behind that front curve of the palate you've got that little oily bubble there where the juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And for me, this one, it's mainly a sort of figgy note that comes out of this one. It's mainly figs, and it becomes more figgy as you go into the aftertaste. There's a little tiny touch of an almost raisiny sharpness to that one, but that comes in and fades away very, very quickly. It's maybe got a little bit of a pruny note to it as well. And I'm finding that as you go further into the aftertaste of this one, you get that kind of boozy, cakey sort of note out of this, and there's just a little bit of a candied red fruit flavour comes out of this beer later as well. It almost reminds you of the little heart-shaped sweets in the Haribo Star Mix. That's the descriptor that I really like to use for that particular flavour, just that little candied strawberry thing from the hearts in the Haribo Star Mix. But overall with this beer, I would say it's quite a smooth one. It has a good little bit of almost a kind of bready character to it. It's not quite lactosey, but it's a very smooth stout, this one. It's not overly, and usually with the Imperial Stouts they can either be quite roasty and toasty, they can be quite sweet, but this one's kind of somewhere in the middle. It's got a bit of sweetness in there, and it's not got so much in the way of roasty toasty quality. It's more of a smooth stout, this one, which is quite interesting. But like I said, the thing that I'm noticing about this one is that it's quite light in the mouthfeel compared to some of the others that you might get in the style. But in terms of flavour, it is really quite nice, and I like it. I think the whisky flavours, the bourbon flavours in this one, that kind of lingers throughout this beer, and it works very, very well actually. I like how everything goes together in this beer. This is one of these ones where it's all about how the flavours fit together, and it does that quite nicely for me. In terms of the mouthfeel of this beer, then I would say this is a mid-bodied beer. It's not really such a full body one. It's at the top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth, and I would say overall the mouthfeel, yeah, it's a bit oily towards the front, but I think the rest of the mouthfeel feels a little bit wet actually. Like I said, I think this one It is, I mean, obviously in Sweden here we get the big Omnipollo stout, so we're used to these big oily sludgy things. This one to me feels a little bit lighter, and it is lighter than some of the other American stouts that I've had, I will say that about it. Yeah, and I mean, but when I think about Speedway Stout, I think that is fairly light as well, so maybe the ones that we're getting in Scandinavia are just a little bit thicker, so maybe that's not such a fair thing. But in terms of the malt base then, very smooth, has a little bit of sweetness to it, little touch of roasted quarter as well, but mainly a smooth, sweet malt base to this one. Smooth hops in this, it's not got too much in the way of IBUs, this beer, I think somewhere between 30 and 40 at most, and a little bit of a juicy fruity quality as well. The aftertaste, you can really feel the whiskey and the woody notes to this beer, but overall very, very nice beer, and it does make me curious about some of the other things that these guys are producing. I would love to see if they've produced a Scotch ale as well. It would be very interesting to have a taste of that if they have, so I'll need to look that up after finishing off this video. But yeah, this one, the Dark Age, a really, really nice beer. I'd love to try the original at some point, so hopefully we get that over here as well. But it's been very cool to review this one as my first beer from Wicked Weed, and as I say, this was a brewery I heard a lot about, and it certainly didn't disappoint. So yeah, if you get the chance to try this beer, I do recommend that you have a look at it. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This was the bourbon barrel-aged version of the Dark Age Imperial Stout from Wicked Weed Brewing in Asheville, North Carolina. A really nice beer for me, little touch light in the mouthfeel. I think if you thicken this one up a little bit, more of the chocolate and stuff would come out, but overall, like I say, very, very nice beer, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. I do want to go at the original as well. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Wicked Weed as well. Do recommend some other North Carolina breweries for me, because I know that's a beer state, or a state that really is starting to kick off in terms of the craft beer, and we're getting more and more in Europe. So do let me know some other North Carolina breweries I should look out for, and hopefully we get them in Copenhagen and in Malmö and stuff like that. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out my social media. This was the bourbon barrel-aged version of the Dark Age Imperial Stout from Wicked Weed Brewing in Asheville in North Carolina. Until the next time, stand you just now, skål.